The Autumn Internationals, every England and Ireland match live, only on Sky Sports.
Welcome back to Mexico City. Jenson Button starts from 13th. He's speaking with Rachel.
Jenson, is getting Fernando into turn one still the plan?
Nah, that was a little jokey comment between us. It's always good to have a bit of in-house fighting, but no, we'll see what we can do. I think where we are, we don't want to be too silly, because I think we got a good chance to score some points with strategies that we can possibly run. So it should be, hopefully, a fun race.
Is this warmer than you were expecting today?
No, all right.
All right, thanks, JB.
Yeah, he said it yesterday, didn't he, Johnny? He was just going to chuck up inside.
Yeah, let's have a little bit of racing, that tight turn one. But yeah, again, if there is an opportunity, I am sure he would do exactly that.
What do we think today with regards to Red Bull and Ferraris getting in amongst and perhaps aiding Hamilton and taking some points off Rosberg?
I think Max Verstappen's going to be the one, isn't he? If he can get away off the line, Christian Horner, kind of highlighting that two-stop, they're going to try something different. I think they're absolutely right. If they want to make something different at this race, try and beat, that's the important thing.
I think you've got to put Daniel in that as well. I think both of those Red Bulls look very good in race pace.
Look at the scenes, brilliant stuff. This is what we want to see. The crowd will be on the edge of their seat today as they look towards that battle at the front. The gap 26 between Rosberg and Hamilton. What will happen in the latest chapter here in Mexico? We are about to find out.
Rosberg wins the Australian Grand Prix.
Yeah! Awesome, guys, awesome!
3 wins out of 3.
Woohoo!
And it's his 7th race in a row. Hamilton has got past Nico Rosberg.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
They touched again.
That wasn't me that crashed.
Hamilton wins and is now 19 points clear at the top of the table. Nico Rosberg has revitalised his championship challenge.
Yes, come on, guys! Come on!
Lewis Hamilton's come to Texas and he's done what he needed to do.
Commentary comes from Martin Brundle and David Croft.
And in this city of 22 million people, time to focus on the 22 drivers who've managed to find a clear space in which to drive around Mexico City this afternoon, with possibly extra emphasis on the 2 drivers going for the World Championship in 2016. Welcome along to the Mexican Grand Prix. It is round 19 in this Formula One season. 71 laps ahead of us this afternoon around the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Long straights, slow corners, overtaking possibilities, and 54% of the 2.67 miles taken at full throttle. Yesterday in qualifying, we had a speed of 227 miles an hour from Felipe Massa. Just how fast will we see the cars on the super soft, the soft or the medium tyres this afternoon? 2 DRS zones to try and aid overtaking, and for Nico Rosberg, the chance of winning the world title today. If he wins the race and his teammate Lewis Hamilton finishes 10th or lower, then Rosberg is world champion at a track where he finished on pole, took the fastest lap and won the race last year, but where he starts slightly on the back foot this year, Martin.
Yes, I think Rosberg's been struggling with a bit of pace all weekend, and some saying is he's just driving defensively. I don't see it quite that way, I must say. I think he's really found it difficult to dial the car in to the track, and that's why he had to take an extra set of tyres in qualifying. Will that hurt him in the race? But he's just as capable of winning this Grand Prix as anybody, especially his teammate. So we'll find out who gets down to the first corner and round it intact, David.
And an 18th pole position of the season for Mercedes-Benz, equaling the single season record for the most poles as well. For Lewis Hamilton, it's his 10th pole of 2016. Nico Rosberg alongside him on the front row. It's an all Red Bull row 2 once again, but this time, unlike last week in Austin, Verstappen is ahead of Ricciardo. Nico Hülkenberg 5th for Force India, ahead of Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari, who's changed his engine but takes no penalty for it. Sebastian Vettel starts 7th, ahead of Valtteri Bottas, out qualifying Felipe Massa in the Williams once again. Carlos Sainz completes the top 10, same 10 drivers that were in the top 10 in Austin. Fernando Alonso was whooping for joy after qualifying 11th. He has Sergio Perez alongside him. Jenson Button starts 13th. Last time he did that, he finished 9th. It was Monaco. He's alongside Kevin Magnussen. Marcus Ericsson out of Q2 for the second successive race, has Pascal Wehrlein for company. Esteban Gutierrez, the lead driver in the Haas Ferrari, ahead of Danny Kvyat. Felipe Nasser starts his Sauber alongside Esteban Ocon, and Jolyon Palmer, who changed his chassis, starts all alone on the back row because Romain Grosjean has had a floor change in his Haas, and he will start from the pit lane. It's the first time that both Haas drivers were knocked out in Q1 since Australia.
The only man with who has a choice of tyres, 11th onwards, that's gone for the super softs is Jolyon Palmer. I thought he might go long at the back there and try and make up some space. Everybody else in the second half of the field has gone for new or used yellow mark softs, with the exception of Felipe Nasser in the Sauber. He's gone for the medium, which should last all day.
About 50 laps minimum. So say Pirelli on that one, showing no signs of degradation there. So Palmer kind of going punchy, Nasser going a bit more conservative. But of those starting on the soft tyre, could any of those trouble the likes of Rosberg or Hamilton, who may have to pit slightly earlier, or the two Red Bulls maybe that have to pit slightly earlier?
I don't think so, Crofty. Who they're going to trouble is Bottas, Massa and Sainz, who start on the super softs. Just remember, I spoke to Carlos on the grid, said, well, 10 laps, and he looked at me like, that would be birthday and Christmas all at once if they do that. So he didn't say that, but that was kind of the look in his eyes.
Absolutely. Soft tyres for both Mercedes drivers at the start. Esteban Gutierrez, with a great tribute crash helmets, at one of 6 Mexican drivers to race in Formula 1. And we have 2 racing here today for the first time in a Mexican Grand Prix since 1968. The fans have all come out to see them, and more importantly, they've come out to see Sergio Perez. Big responsibility on his shoulders today to deliver a points finish for Force India and for around about 110,000 people.
Yeah, and they're making plenty of noise. They'll be making as much noise as the cars, but 22 cars, well, one starts in the pit lane, all well over 900 horsepower with their various goodies. That's an awful lot of power heading down to the first corner.
Now, I spoke to Max Verstappen's race engineer just about 2 hours ago, and I said, come on, tell us about the start then. Where's your boy going to go? Down the inside? Is he going to try and make a move? And he just smiled and grinned at me and said, you know what, we're really looking forward to the start today.
I bet they're looking forward to start more than Mercedes are, because they've got plenty to lose if Max gets a bit punchy, or Daniel Ricciardo. He's not shy either if they fancy getting some track position on their super soft tyres, which, strictly speaking, looks like they're, you know, swimming against the stream, isn't it? Against the tide, but we'll find out.
Yeah, the Mercedes, they're kind of scratching their head, wondering what Red Bull are up to, why they're trying to start on the super soft tyre, and I'm sure all will be revealed as the race unfolds. A one-stop strategy, some say, is the best way to run this race. Others say a 2.
Esteban, this is Juan Montoya. I hope you have a great day. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everybody. It feels like being in Mexico.
Juan Pablo Montoya talking live to Esteban Gutierrez on the formation lap. So some say 1, some say 2, and the real conservative engineers out there, Martin, are all saying, do you know what, we're not quite sure what might be the best strategy today.
That's good. So I'm just smiling there. I mean, Juan Pablo Montoya as a journalist, there's so many things surprise me in life, and that is one of them. A bit like Jacques Villeneuve as well. He used to despise any journalist. He hated them. Anyway.
That's how the championship lead has fluctuated throughout the season. but one thing is for sure, Nico Rosberg has held that championship lead way more times than his teammate. 14 of the 18 rounds this year, Nico Rosberg has led. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes have wrapped it up already. Red Bull and Ferrari still fighting it out for second place. Red Bull can take that second place today if they outscore Ferrari by 34 points. Force India and Williams separated by only 8 points. And there's an awful long way to go in that particular battle before the checkered flag in Abu Dhabi. So they're coming through the stadium section now. The majority are coming through the stadium section, but the two Mercedes, the two Red Bulls already onto the grid, Martin. There's 900 metres nearly between where they start and where they have to make that first corner. It's the longest drag of the season, so what happens?
It's a one-by-one grid, and although we call it the front row and the second row, they're separated by 8 metres, effectively, 2 rows, so they're offset by 4 metres. You can gain a half a metre if you get the car a long way forward and just a little bit further forward of that yellow line, because you can't see out of the cockpit, so they put a yellow line out the side to help you there. You can see it very clearly, to help you locate your car. Some get right on the white line at the front, others park just beyond the yellow like that. So if they're talking about gaining a few metres down the first corner, you want every few centimetres in your grid slot.
Yes. Red Bull think that those super soft tyres could be worth more than 6 metres advantage. Others say it's only going to be 6 metres. Time to stop talking. It's lights out and away we go. It's a good start by Rosberg. Hamilton gets bogged down slightly. Verstappen is right on his tail though. Hamilton is leading from Rosberg, and then comes Verstappen. Another great start from Fernando Alonso as down towards the first corner we come. Hulkenberg is alongside Verstappen. Rosberg slips in beside Hamilton. Hamilton locks up but still makes the corner. No, he doesn't. Verstappen and Rosberg almost touching, and Rosberg has to go wide as well, but they get through it unscathed. In 4th place comes Nico Hulkenberg, then Daniel Ricciardo, and out of the back Esteban Ocon and Marcus Ericsson come together. And they're both out of the race, and it looks like Fernando Alonso in the McLaren's had a wobbly moment there on the grass, but he's managed to keep going.
So much chaos at the back. What will the stewards say about... Rosberg's had some contact in there too, we're hearing. What will the stewards say about Lewis's little adventure across the grass? He didn't gain, and of course didn't lose a position. If he backs off a bit, he might be sensible to back himself right up. What are they doing? There's no grip out there.
Puncture. I think I have a puncture.
Sebastian Vettel has a puncture. The virtual safety car comes out. Felipe Massa, another one there, struggling for grip. Sebastian Vettel in 7th place where he started, and that's why we have the virtual safety car. Pascal Wehrlein in the manor coming together with the Sauber, and we should see that in a moment.
And who will want to get a cheap pit stop so you lose much less time? Get rid of their super softs right now, and if there's any damage to the car, you're better to do it. And, well, I think they all talked about it on the grid. Long run down there, front tyres cold, they've done nothing basically while they're sitting on the grid. The rear tyres have hooked up 900 odd plus, and the Mercedes have not come in.
No, they were waiting, but they're both staying out. They're on the soft tyre. Into the pits comes Daniel Ricciardo on the super soft tyre. Red Bull getting rid of those behind the safety car. Sebastian Vettel with a puncture, he thinks, but he's actually carrying on, Martin.
The mediums go on then. So they've used this virtual safety car as we expected some might, but only Ricciardo has. They've got to use 2 different compounds, 2 different colours this afternoon. Nico Rosberg getting very close to running into the back of Lewis Hamilton there. So it's obviously gone from virtual safety car to full safety car, as we can see.
So here's Marcus Ericsson, who has managed to keep going after tangling with Pascal Wehrlein. New front wing going on for him, medium tyres as well. Jolyon Palmer came into the pits for a change of tyres. He's gone on to the mediums, started on the super softs as well.
I think they're smart from Renault. They got rid of those now, and again at the back they had nothing to lose really. But the good news for those that did pit is when it went to full safety car, they get backed up into a crocodile. I thought Hamilton looked like he struggled initially, but then it got away well, didn't it? And P5 there, Hulkenberg, was absolutely flying. And I think given some adventures recently, not getting too punchy down there. But Lewis locks his right front and goes right across the grass. Will there be grass in his radiated ducts? They have got shields in there. And look, Lewis unchallenged really here. He's unchallenged, but he's gone in too deep. He overestimated the retardation he was going to have. And there, well, for me, Rosberg ended up back in front of the Red Bull because he went across the grass.
Yeah, should he have to give that place back, do you think?
Let's have another look.
And Hulkenberg's made a great start here as well, up in the 4th place.
And that's a horrible lockup for Hamilton as well. So, in my view, the Red Bull was ahead of the Mercedes there, and he ended up back ahead because he went across the grass.
And there we can see Marcus Ericsson getting tagged by Pascal Wehrlein. Wehrlein coming off way, way worse. And this is what the 890 metres from pole to the apex of turn 1 looks like on board with the pole sitter. And everything at this stage, Martin, going oh so well, but he hasn't put his brakes on yet.
No, you go through a puff of dust that's gone down from previous races, I think, and he's very lucky to go across there. There wasn't a big exit curve that was going to put the car through the end, damage the under tray. And it was Hulkenberg who got the best start, but thought better. Yeah, so Rosberg and Verstappen under investigation. I think Rosberg will be told to give that place back.
Yeah, we could maybe get a really good look at this now from on board Hulkenberg. Yeah,
he gave him a shove. He gave him a shove.
So was Verstappen too aggressive?
Well, it puts a different light on it, doesn't it? But Rosberg had run out of space, but he was already running out of road. That's a tough call.
On board with Esteban Gutierrez, who's made his way up into 14th place from his starting spot of 17th. You can see the manner of Pascal Wehrlein alongside him. There comes Marcus Ericsson.
Aha.
And it's Gutierrez who tags Wehrlein, who then tags Ericsson.
Carbon fibre going around like confetti at a wedding, and that is Alonso, isn't it, up on the grass up ahead of us.
So really, wasn't Wehrlein's fault, that one. Esteban Gutierrez caught in the middle.
How's that a vibration? Yeah, we're not super concerned, Lewis. It depends if you can live with it.
It's definitely going to be hard.
Okay.
100-degree difference between the 2 front brakes.
So he's saying, I had a brake differential when I got down there. I think that call is about tolerance of the integrity of the suspension if you're doing 229 miles an hour with a big vibration. Will it? We've seen it. You remember Kimi Räikkönen in Nürburgring?
Yeah. And he had the wind kind of taken away from him. Track is now clear. Safety car has gone. We're back racing once again. Hamilton, Rosberg, Verstappen, Hulkenberg, Räikkönen, Massa up to 6th, Vettel, Bottas, Perez up to 9th, Carlos Sainz is 10th. And once again, cold tyres, cold brakes, into turn 1 we go. Hamilton doesn't lock up this time. There's Sebastian Vettel and Valtteri Bottas quite close together. Vettel in 7th, Bottas in 8th as they make their way through the 2nd corner. And Vettel's got it all to do from there. Rosberg is already dropping behind Hamilton as down towards the next heavy braking zone we go.
Ricciardo came out 17th into the crocodile behind the safety car. Not at all good.
Vettel under real pressure from Valtteri Bottas. Behind him, that Williams has got speed down the straights. Behind them comes Sergio Perez, looking for a little gap there on Valtteri Bottas. Going into the next right-hander. Perez hustling and pressurising Bottas all the way. And slipping through the field we go. Daniel Ricciardo now up into 16th after making his pit stop. And Marcus Ericsson running 21st and last. He pitted too, as did Jolyon Palmer in the Renault. Palmer is currently running 20th. Looking now to Verstappen.
The gearbox is failing.
Carlos Sainz having problems. He's down in 10th at the moment, but he's got problems with his gearbox. How much longer can he hang on to that? Verstappen is not letting Rosberg get away from him. To be fair, Hulkenberg isn't letting Verstappen get away from him either. And Kimi Räikkönen currently running in 5th, just dropping down a little touch on Räikkönen. The gap between Hamilton and Rosberg is a 2nd. Verstappen 6/10 behind, no DRS as yet. Fastest lap from Valtteri Bottas, showing the speed of that Williams as once again into turn 1 we go. We're on lap 5 of 71, and we look further back in the field and we see there the Renault of Kevin Magnussen, the McLaren of Jenson Button. Button trying to go around the outside at turn 1. Has he got the space to do it? Runs a little wide but not off the track. Magnussen manages to hold on to 12th place. He's ahead of Jenson Button in 13th.
All the grip of oiled oak out there, I'd imagine, but Jenson's tried to cut underneath him, but now he's in the wrong position for the next bend, which is a left-hander, as Gutierrez fancies getting involved.
Little lock up there from Kevin Magnussen, former teammate, of course, of Jenson Button's at McLaren. They didn't stand on the podium together in Australia, but they both finished on the podium. Jenson Button almost running into the back of the Renault.
A little love tap there, wasn't it?
But if he did avoid contact, it wasn't by much.
Oh dear. Come back. Back stepping out. Huge oversteer, and that's put Daniel Ricciardo.
He's up in the 15th now. He's ahead of Nasser.
Yeah, despite those medium tyres. So Daniel's got a long haul now. It'll turn out better for him later on, but he's going to have some fun meanwhile. But of course, through that snake out the back of the circuit, there aren't really any overtaking opportunities. And through here, unless you do a desperate lunge up the inside, a Dan Dare, you're not going anywhere.
Would you say, though, on the Mercedes pit wall, they're going to be keeping very close tabs on the pace of Daniel Ricciardo in these next few laps, and might be slightly concerned if he can start to make inroads from that 15th place he is at the moment?
Yeah, he's got at least 15.6 seconds behind, so it's sort of 2/3 of a pit stop already, isn't it? But he's certainly giving all the other teams some very valuable information, is Daniel Ricciardo.
Jenson Button once again trying to have a go at Kevin Magnussen. Daniel Ricciardo now right on the tail of Esteban Gutierrez, needs to clear him as quickly as he possibly can. Hamilton out in front, 1.4 seconds was the gap on Rosberg. DRS is enabled now, and Verstappen is very much within DRS range of Rosberg. He's going to have to be careful, you'd imagine, Martin, and looking in his wing mirrors to see where that Red Bull is.
So what's Toto on the radio for? Do you think that's to Charlie, to the stewards? This is about track position. If Rosberg has to give it back to Verstappen, he'll have to do it with some elegance, because Hülkenberg and Raikkonen are not too far behind.
No news from the stewards yet. It might just be that at the end of this straight, Verstappen might make any decision a little bit unnecessary, because he's right on the tail here of Nico Rosberg as Hamilton completes another lap, and along the main straight we go now. DRS is available for Max Verstappen. There goes the gap in the rear wing, and he's now gaining on Rosberg. Is he too far behind Rosberg? It just seems that he is for this moment in time. Needs to be just a couple of tenths, maybe 3 tenths closer to Rosberg coming out of the Peraltada to really make an impression with that DRS. Ted, down to you.
The moment that Ricciardo got a bad start, Red Bull realised that their strategy of starting on the red stripe super soft tyres wasn't going to work. That's why they took advantage under the virtual safety car and put him on a one-stop strategy. I mean, it's probably going to be a 2-stop from here in total, Crofty, but it'll be a 1-stop from now on, whereas Max Verstappen might have to make, we're probably going to have to make 2 stops as well. So you're absolutely right, Ricciardo will go from now medium, and then maybe to lap 50 or so, and then soft, and it'll be super quick at the end, and definitely a factor.
And Daniel Ricciardo is up into 14th. Whilst Ted was talking there, we saw him getting past Esteban Gutierrez next on the road in the Red Bull. For Daniel Ricciardo is Jenson Button in the McLaren.
Now, Rosberg does have to give that place back, according to the referees. He needs to do it sooner than later, because Verstappen's on the super softs. They decay by 1.5 tenths per lap, at least, and he doesn't want to, he'll have to, they're just dropping away from Hamilton if he doesn't do it very quickly. But, of course, no further action. Yeah. So the tap off the track, they consider to be even Stevens for the fact that Rosberg came back out off the grass in front.
All fair at turn 1. No further action, Rosberg or Verstappen. So Verstappen will have to try and get past Nico Rosberg on his own. Sebastian Vettel is now starting to gain a little bit on Felipe Massa. Now, he's on the soft tyre, is Vettel. Massa, of course, on the super soft tyre. So it's worth keeping an eye on Felipe Massa's times here, Martin, just to see if those tyres are starting to go off, to degrade a little.
Yeah, it's slightly confused. Obviously, they did a couple of laps out of the safety car, didn't they? So it doesn't take anything like as much energy out of them, as long as you can keep a reasonable temperature in them. And here's another view of that. So Rosberg moves left to think about having a go at Hamilton. Verstappen tyre smoking up the inside. And yeah, that's fair enough. I think that's fine. Verstappen was marginally out of control and basically ran Rosberg out of road and gave him a little tap for good measure.
He had every right to go down the inside, you would imagine. Verstappen, the gap was there for him.
And the stewards do make allowances for the first couple of laps of a Grand Prix or any restarts, to know that there's going to be more argy-bargy than in a straight fight on lap 50, for example.
Quite. So we've completed 8 laps, and Hamilton building a very nice gap indeed between himself and his teammates. And if he stays that way, 19 points that will be the difference between the 2 Mercedes drivers going to Brazil. Daniel Ricciardo in 3rd in the championship. Sebastian Vettel still looking for a way past Felipe Massa. We're on board now with Daniel Ricciardo. The car right in front of him is Jenson Button. He's got DRS, has Button, he's got DRS, has Ricciardo. Ricciardo goes down the inside on those medium compound tyres, not affecting his performance there. He's up now into 13th place.
I think Jensen was there. Off you go, Ricky Billy Bob, or whatever he calls him. I don't think I'm racing. Ricky Bobby. I don't think I'm racing you today.
Ricky Billy Bob's is his boozy known country mountain cousin. But I like that. Oh dear. Felipe Massa, we're watching still his lap times in the 1:24s, as is Hulkenberg as well for Force India.
Okay, mate, nice job. You need to get back Magnussen as soon as possible. We need to clear Magnussen quickly. He is vulnerable, he's on his own.
And he's about a second behind Kevin Magnussen at the moment. Is Daniel Ricciardo as they make their way towards the stadium section, which is where Felipe Massa leads Sebastian Vettel out of at the moment. And look at that gap that Hamilton has built up ahead of Rosberg. Looking nice for him at the moment. Rosberg is a second as they cross the line clear of Max Verstappen. So he's doing what he needs to do, keep Verstappen at bay. Hulkenberg running a really nice race for Force India, and Raikkonen not making much impression on him at the moment. And Sergio Perez in 9th place still, trying to get at Valtteri Bottas. Carlos Sainz is wondering where Fernando Alonso is going. These two shared a meal, didn't they, after their tussle in Austin last week out, as Daniel Ricciardo goes down the inside on Kevin Magnussen and was told to get the job done on the Dane as soon as he possibly can, and he did. Down into turn 1 on the very next lap. Ricciardo now up into 12th place.
He was seconds behind, wasn't he, a couple of laps ago, so he's marching on nicely. But through the traffic, Ricciardo's doing a 24.4, Hamilton out front, a 23.5. Ricciardo on the slower tyres and busy.
Now we're watching Sergio Perez at the moment. His fellow Mexican compatriot Esteban Gutierrez is under investigation for causing a collision. We saw Pascal Wehrlein make contact with Gutierrez, spin off to the track, take Marcus Ericsson with him. Ericsson currently 20th ahead of Jolyon Palmer in the Renault. He managed to rejoin the track, and Wehrlein with his left front tyre at all angles was never going to get back into this race again. He is the one and only retirement in this race so far, and we're on lap 11. Normally, the super soft tyres, the pit window would just start to open slightly now, but of course we've run a few laps behind the safety car. Those tyres are starting to look a little bit dodgy out there. Also under investigation, Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz for causing a collision. We saw Alonso onto the grass, so it must have been Sainz that he tangled with there.
Never meet your hero, you might end up running him off the road.
Okay, I'm a bit stuck. Very, very fast down the straights. I can go quite a bit faster than him.
Yeah, need to overtake him. Oh,
yeah.
There goes Sergio Perez again, looking for an opportunist move on Valtteri Bottas.
So 2 Force Indias and 2 Williams in the top 9. But they're all on the super softs, aren't they?
Well, Perez on the soft tyre.
Yes,
he
you're right.
had a free tyre choice, didn't he?
Soft, yeah.
At the start of this race. I mean, Perez won't want to sit behind the car, you'd imagine, for too much longer, but he can probably afford to sit behind Bottas a little bit longer, because he can go that much longer in his first stint.
That's a tricky little corner onto the main straight. See a lot of different lines and concepts, and Verstappen's tyres then clearly not enjoying this phase of the race unless he's made a mistake. Verstappen had just all the sectors going down, suggesting his tyres are beginning to cry enough.
He just put in a 1:24.5, give or take 1 millisecond. Ahead of him, Rosberg put in a 1:23.9, and just behind him, Kimi Raikkonen put in a 1:24.2, Hulkenberg a 1:24.3. Watch still Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas. At this stage of the season for Force India and Williams, every single point is precious. Romain Grosjean pits, soft tyres going off and the medium tyre going on, which gives him 59 laps between now and the end of the race. Can he make that without stopping again?
It's nice if you're at the end of the pit lane, you can get a much easier, you haven't got to worry so much about the speed limiter. Be wary of it a little bit, but then you can just launch the car out. And the same when you're coming in, if you're at the beginning of the pit lane.
It's only a 2.67 mile circuit this, so when you do make your stop, if it has to be an early stop, you're almost bang to right. It's going to be coming out in traffic, which is why even if your tyres are starting to go off, you want to leave it as late as possible. But Verstappen, they've decided at Red Bull they've got a gap and he can come in for a pit stop, and Ted, they're waiting for him this time.
They certainly are, and he's sure not to make that mistake. And oh, that was the mechanic just getting out of the way at the last moment, and that's triggering it. And that is the medium tyre property. So that's instructive for me. That's interesting. Is that then a one stop? I think that's all that they can hope for, is try to do one stop. They know if they two stop from here, having not got track position, as a very steady Carlos Sainz comes in right in front of me, putting the medium tyre as well, then there's not really that much they can do if they two stop from here, Red Bull. It was quite tight, wasn't it?
It was for Sebastian Vettel as well, desperately trying to get past Felipe Massa and almost out-braking himself going into turn 4. And you mentioned Carlos Sainz stopping. Magnussen stopped as well. Gutierrez stopped as well. A few have come in. But, Martin, we talk about the undercut week in, week out here, stopping early and then gaining an advantage by running on fresher tyres. What works better here, the undercut or the overcut, staying out a bit longer?
I think it depends on which stage of the race they are, their stint, which tyres they've got on, is whether you're better to come in first or second in a battle.
He's stupid. He's slowing himself down by fighting so hard.
So he hasn't got blue flags, Sebastian Vettel, to moan about, because it's for track position. But is the assumption there that he thinks Massa should get out of the way because Massa's ruining his own race?
That's his point. But Felipe's got track position. He's entitled to manage that how he likes. I think the biggest problem, the next big problem that Red Bull have got, is Verstappen came out not very far behind Ricciardo. Of course, Ricciardo pitted on his... Verstappen's going to clear Alonso pretty quickly. And I think he'll, on the fresher tyres, coast up to the back of Ricciardo. Red Bull may have to allow him through.
No further action needed. Esteban Gutierrez and Marcus Ericsson and Pascal Wehrlein, the stewards, deciding to let that one ride as well. And what Felipe Massa is doing here is forming something of a train. Massa, Vettel, Bottas, and then Perez, all very close together, separated by round about a second, and all for track position, 6th, 7th, 8th, and sorry, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Well, Verstappen was fed up with his super soft, so I imagine Massa's pretty similar. But he wants to hold the pack up for a while.
They've got Fernando Alonso in between the two Red Bulls at the moment, so Verstappen will need to clear him before they have to make a decision as to what they do. What's Ricciardo's pace looking like at the moment? It's at 1:23.5 for Ricciardo. That seems to be good pace.
And no further action either against Ericsson, Gutierrez, Wehrlein. How generous are the stewards today? Danny Sullivan, I spoke to on the grid.
He said he had a quiet weekend and was probably looking forward to a quiet race as well.
There has been a general, last year sometime, wasn't it, of let them go racing. But we don't always see that applied.
Right, Massa's pitted, Hulkenberg's pitted. Vettel is now released. There's no Felipe Massa in his way. Medium tyres going on. And this seems to be a bit of a trend now forming, Martin, that do the teams now think we can get to the end of the race on the medium tyre? We don't need any soft or super softs from here on in.
It's a long way to go, isn't it? Long way to go.
The stewards have decided they want to take some action. Carlos Sainz, for forcing Fernando Alonso off the track, gets a 5-second time penalty. Now, Sainz is out there at the moment on the medium tyre. If he doesn't pit again, they'll add 5 seconds to his overall race time. If he does pit again, he'll stay stationary for 5 seconds before they can change his tyres.
Yes, I guess they wish they'd have applied that somewhat earlier, so he could have taken that at his pit stop.
And this is what happened here. Williams getting all out of shape and almost tangling with the Force India. There's Carlos Sainz moving over to the left-hand side, carries on, doesn't really give Fernando Alonso any room, but was Alonso alongside him? Did Sainz have every right there to be moving over to the left and taking the normal line?
I don't think he realised he was out there. Good save.
Yeah.
Ferdy there.
I'd like to see that on board once again from Fernando Alonso. Either way, the stewards have made their decision. And let's have a look now. Hulkenberg, Hamilton leads Rosberg.
And let's push now, push now.
Yes, I'm pushing. I'm pushing from the lap 1. But we have traffic for 15 laps with a car that should not be in the race. So do your job and do mine.
He doesn't hold back. And then he gets out when he's all smashy and nicey and about the team. It's brutal. The car should not be in the race.
Well, it's now behind Max Verstappen. Verstappen's got ahead of him. Alonso's running 9th, Verstappen is running 8th. Just to let you know that Hülkenberg came back out from his pit stop in 10th place. Felipe Massa is down in 13th after that round of pit stops. He's behind his fellow Brazilian, Felipe Nasser, and Jenson Button. We still watch here Sergio Perez challenging Valtteri Bottas. Now, Massa got first call at Williams as to when he needed to come in. Bottas, it went very, very long and just got away with it with a late safety car this time last year here in Mexico, staying out for that little bit longer on his super soft tyres, so he doesn't need to run the mediums for quite as much distance. Ted, down to you.
I was just keeping an eye on Ricciardo's lap times on the medium, and they were pretty good actually. I think that's what pushed everybody just to keep their options open and fit the medium tyre in this stint, Crofty. Keeping their options open means that you could go to the end of the race if your mediums are going to last, or you could come in for another stop and put the soft tyres on and go to the end. McLaren actually coming out the pit stop now, right in front of me. Yeah. I asked Eric Boulier, what does he think when Alonso comes up with those, rather snarky, tetchy, and it is for Fernando Alonso, messages? Boulier said, you know what, on the pit wall, we just roll our eyes, smile to each other, and let him get on with the job, because more often than not, he delivers. And I think that's a nice approach, probably the only approach to take.
Yeah, but it just damages the engine suppliers, it damages everybody back at the factory, it just cuts their legs from underneath them.
All right, so we have a Mercedes pit stop in the offing. Will it be Hamilton? Will it be Rosberg? The undercut or the overcut? What's better? Stopping a bit earlier, stopping a little bit later? There's a 5.7 second gap. We would imagine it's going to be Hamilton. It is going to be Hamilton. Dive to the right of that bollard, right at the last possible moment.
Yeah, he's got enough gap there with his overcut or undercut, isn't it? So they pitted in first, and he'll be pleased to get rid of those vibrating front right tyre. And now it's stabilised for him, and it didn't seem to hold him up much, did it?
So Hamilton pits, 2.1 seconds. Just looking at the times here, Martin, those Mercedes pit boys, they've done a great job with Hamilton. 2.1 seconds, really, really good time. They might need to repeat that for Nico Rosberg, because if you look at the time, the gap between Rosberg and Ricciardo, it's round about 22 seconds, which is round about the pit lane loss time. So any slight delay in the pit stop here, that might just see Ricciardo jump Rosberg in the pit stops.
Pretty close. So Ricciardo now 2.2 ahead of Verstappen. It was 3.8 last time I looked. Verstappen coming at him pretty quickly. Verstappen's tyres 11 laps younger, same compound.
Hamilton has come back out into the race in 4th place after his pit stop, behind Sebastian Vettel, Kimi Räikkönen, the man who's actually leading the race at the moment. He hasn't pitted, Nico Rosberg. And how do his tyres look to you? Little bits of grading there.
Too bad at all, actually. Nice slide, nice little power oversteer there.
Ted, down to you.
So we just heard on team radio that Red Bull believe that they've already got Rosberg with Ricciardo.
Right.
They believe that if Rosberg pits now, Ricciardo will indeed take track position ahead of him. So Mercedes presumably know that as well, because they can work that out.
Yeah.
So what do they do then? Will Rosberg have enough juice in his soft tyres to give a bit of a push now?
Well, here's interesting, Ted. They've kept Rosberg out. He hasn't pitted. His last lap time was 0.4 of a second quicker than Daniel Ricciardo's.
Yeah, looks like they're going to do that, because there's no point in pitting him now, because they know that they'd lose track position to Red Bull. Albeit, Ricciardo's tyres are starting to get a little bit old by now, only 18 laps worth. But
so as Sergio Perez goes for it again with the Williams of Valtteri Bottas, and this is a brilliant scrap. It really is. So far, Bottas has managed to stay ahead of the Mexican, but you just get the inevitable feeling that Perez is going to get past eventually. But a question for you, Martin. Max Verstappen quicker than Daniel Ricciardo at the moment. So if Red Bull think that they can get Rosberg, but Rosberg is going to start to put in better times than Ricciardo, do you switch those Red Bull drivers now?
Yes, you'll have to. He's quitting rapidly because of the tyre life. And they'll have to swap them around. They're on a different race strategy completely. I would expect to hear the call. I don't know how Daniel Ricciardo will feel about it. Hamilton's done a fastest of anybody in the first sector on his fresh tyres. Always need to make sure you don't take too much of the grip.
Okay, mate, you're doing a good job. You need to get through these cars quickly. Get through these two cars quickly. They are fighting each other.
Yeah, fighting each other, and you wonder, Another lock-up there from the Williams and possibly the Force India as well. Bottas doing a sterling job here that might just help Felipe Massa's race when it all unfolds as well, because he's holding Perez up. Finally, he comes in for his pit stop. He's got 19 laps, albeit with a safety car, out of these super soft tyres. He's done a really sterling job there. And Perez is now released, but he has DRS, of course, which doesn't really help Daniel Ricciardo. He gets DRS, but has to stay now behind Perez in what is the battle for fifth. Fastest lap of the race has just gone in from Lewis Hamilton, who's 2 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel and lapping around about 7/10 of a second quicker than the Ferrari. Now, let's watch Daniel Ricciardo. No DRS for Verstappen, but both Perez and Ricciardo do have a bit of DRS. And Ricciardo is going to have to sit behind the Force India for a bit longer.
Perez outbraked himself with his front tyres fading away into turn 1. That's put the Red Bull right on the back of him, I think.
Okay, check out everything you've got. Everything you've got.
I think the message to Daniel as well, you've got to clear these quickly, otherwise you're going to be told to let Max through.
See, the gap is now increasing between Rosberg and Ricciardo. It's now 23.5 seconds. And in comes Nico Rosberg for his pit stop. And they've seen this on the Mercedes pit wall, and they thought, right, now's the time to strike. And it could just be that Ricciardo, being held up by Perez there, has saved Nico Rosberg from being overtaken by one or both of the Red Bulls. Into the pits as well comes Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari medium tyres going on to his Ferrari. Sebastian Vettel leads the race from Lewis Hamilton, but we're looking way back to the final corner and then to the pit lane exit. Rosberg comes out and he's ahead of both Red Bulls.
Yeah, that was, of course, the message to Ricciardo, wasn't it? Get on with it, because we've got a chance of undercutting the Mercedes. But as it happens, they were several seconds adrift.
Right, is Ricciardo about to let Verstappen past, you wonder here? Verstappen seemingly much quicker than his teammate, and I wonder if that call has gone into the pit wall from Verstappen. You know, let me past, I'm faster. And they made a swift change, didn't they? The minute the safety car came out, they pitted Daniel Ricciardo, so his tyres an awful lot older.
11 laps. Yeah, 11 laps older, the tyres on Ricciardo.
While we watched these two, Martin, we saw Kimi Raikkonen coming in for his pit stop, and he's managed to jump Nico Hülkenberg. So the overcut, as it were, staying out later, has worked.
What do we do now? I mean, I'm stuck.
We were expecting your call, young man.
It's a tough call to make, and who does make that call on the Red Bull pit wall? Is that Christian Horner's to make?
I thought so.
So his foot's going to be tapping. Probably a few more beats per minute than it normally does.
Verstappen lighting up his rear tyres there in frustration.
Right, so he's just having a little look there, Christian Horner. Now, Verstappen will get DRS here, won't he? Yeah, there it goes. On Daniel Ricciardo. The tyre mark is offline already. Down the main straight we go. He has a little look towards the inside, but he's just a bit too far behind his teammates. The two Red Bulls at the moment running 4th and 5th. Vettel leads, but he hasn't actually pitted yet. Hamilton is 2nd. Nico Rosberg is 3rd. And pulling away slightly from the two Red Bulls. After Rosberg, Ricciardo, Verstappen, then Raikkonen ahead of Hülkenberg, Massa ahead of Bottas, ahead of Perez in the top 10. Perez has now become the only man in this race who hasn't pitted yet. And there, Ricciardo has let Verstappen past.
Yeah, I think that's the call we were seeing on the pit wall there. Vettel's times are good out front. Is he going to overcut? Is he going to gain by staying out longer unusually and get ahead of, for example, Raikkonen, who's got ahead of Hülkenberg?
Is that the sensible call from Red Bull, do you think?
So information, Nico, we only got half the flap adjust, so you got a little bit more front wing than we planned.
Now, how will that affect his tyres and his handling?
It's going to be a bit more pointy. The front's going to have more grip than he ideally wants. They give it a twist when they change the compounds, because the car has a different balance. We talk about balance, the words you'll hear most often in any form of motorsport. You want the front and the rear sliding in unison. You are on the edge of grip. Probably doesn't look like it sometimes. You are sliding. The rear tyres are always constantly spinning a little bit under acceleration too. The car's in yaw, as they say. That's what makes it turn through the corner so sharply. And he's just got to touch the aero balance, in other words, is too far forward, a little bit too far forward. I don't think half a turn is going to ruin his life.
So apologies here, Perez and Force India fans. Sergio has made his pit stop. It's Felipe Massa, the car behind him, that hasn't made his stop yet. Massa ahead of Bottas, and Red Bull have switched their drivers, making the sensible call. What do Williams do here? If Bottas is quicker than Felipe Massa, does that need a little switcheroo as well? Because at the moment, Bottas is really going for it.
You've got to do it. He's such the right place to do it.
Bottas is actually ahead here of Felipe Massa. They swapped into turn 1. I think they did swap. We just caught the back end of that one, but they have swapped around. We can see it a lot better here.
Good spot, Crofty.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, they did it absolutely right. You know, on a part of the track where the Force India is not going to breeze past one of them. Massa struggling for pace in this phase of the Grand Prix.
Felipe Massa, the man who was the only man to score in the opening 6 races of this season. Since then, has scored about 4 points. He's not finishing with a flourish in terms of his Formula One career, sadly. Look how much faster than Williams is. The likes of the Red Bull, the McLaren and Mercedes, but not too much over the Force India.
Great job, Val3. This is looking really good if we can stay on the plan A. Really good.
I think we can.
That's a one-stopper then, presumably. That's a big call from a long way out, isn't it? But he's obviously feeling happy with the tyres.
Do you remember how long he went last year on the medium tyres as well, Valtteri Bottas? Working there for Williams on that day, finished 3rd on the podium from a starting point of 6th on the grid. Sergio Perez behind Felipe Massa, who locks up once again. Out in front, Sebastian Vettel continuing to lap really impressively in his Ferrari. He's actually surpassed Alain Prost now for the 4th on the list of all times lap led, 2,685 and counting.
And yeah, he's giving it full beans out front, because another couple of seconds, another 2 or 3 laps, and he will get ahead of Raikkonen, and that will put him somewhere in amongst the Red Bulls later on.
Looking now, Verstappen 3.1 seconds behind Rosberg, gained half a second on Rosberg on that last lap, and he's about 1.9 seconds clear of his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. Hamilton just sitting, waiting comfortably in 2nd place at the moment, knowing that Sebastian Vettel is going to be pitting soon and he'll retake the lead of this race. He got away well into turn 1, outbraked himself a touch, went across the grass. Seemingly no damage done, no harm done for Hamilton. Didn't have to give the place back at all and carried on in the lead. Rosberg and Verstappen touched, but the stewards decided no further action. Here goes Sergio Perez on Felipe Massa, down into turn 1. Does look up his brakes, does go wide. Perez rejoins the track, doesn't have to give the place back. Felipe Massa's already gone past.
The Brazilian versus the Mexican, 99.9% of the crowd wanted the Force India ahead of the Williams. It didn't happen. He had a go. He knows where the limit is now.
What they kind of need is a synchronised Mexican wave down the main straight, and everyone kind of pushing with their hands.
Extra DRS, you think?
Yeah, just to give them a little bit of an advantage. There's that gap between Rosberg and Verstappen, 3.1 seconds at the moment.
So just be aware, Verstappen is pushing hard now.
Because he's going to do another stop, or why is he doing that?
He's just trying to put you under pressure.
Yeah. Why would a driver be pushing hard? You know, it's Formula One, we're racing here. Come on, Nico.
So I think what they're saying is he's taking a lot out of his tyres.
But can these mediums take it? Not shown a lot of degradation.
So he's got the steering wheel straight. Eventually he had to turn it in. Good save. And that's all fair enough. And Felipe Massa's seen enough close racing over the decades to know where that one was heading.
Apparently Valtteri and Sergio Perez's dad clapping, and eventually darn it. I really wouldn't want to be sat behind the man with a big hat, to be fair. I mean, it looks great, but not from the position of the bloke behind. Ted, down to you.
This long overcut attempt from Vettel isn't working now, Crofty. His tyres have had it, I'm afraid to say, and Kimi's in nice clean air and is keeping the gap at 20 seconds, so it's not enough in this nice sort of interesting intra-Ferrari team battle for Vettel to jump Raikkonen. I think from here they're just going to have to bite the bullet and pit Sebastian, otherwise he's just going to be even further behind Kimi when he does pit.
I tell you what, though, at the moment he will jump Nico Hülkenberg, which will be a gain of 1 for Sebastian Vettel on that one. But you're right at the moment, Ted. He's lapping pretty much identically to his teammate.
See, that's interesting. After all of that swapping around, Ricciardo's only 1 point, or make that 2.4 behind Verstappen. There they are in the background.
Because Verstappen, you'd imagine, can push Martin and can try and put pressure on Rosberg. And it's when he gets within that 1 second, how long can he push and attack for then? And the turbulent air from the car in front starts to interfere.
Hamilton's got the pace, got the race where he needs it at the moment. Rosberg knows second place will just about do.
Now we have a speed trap here of 372 kilometres an hour from Valtteri Bottas.
His tyres don't really feel that great.
Hamilton not enjoying the medium tyres, so it seems at the moment. He's lapping a couple of tenths a second faster than Sebastian Vettel, pretty identical to his teammate. I've done the quick calculations, 231 miles an hour for Valtteri Bottas. Now that's official. That breaks Kimi Raikkonen's 370 kilometres an hour, certainly from the Italian Grand Prix. That could be an all-time speed record in a Grand Prix.
Makes your nose bleed. Always almost as impressive as Le Mans before the chicanes.
Not bad, is it, on a 1.6-litre V6 hybrid engine?
Well, of course, the battery packs don't care what altitude they're at. They're doing their same job. They can compensate with the turbos. So they've got reasonable power, less drag. We've got 785 millibars pressure here. International standard atmosphere is 1013, as you know.
So think on something, man. Why did you box me so late? Let's think on something to overtake them. It's very difficult. I cannot pass them.
Perez wanted to come in a bit earlier, you think?
Why didn't you undercut me? We're not sure there is an undercut, but the overcut doesn't appear to be working for Vettel. But he could get in. He's ahead of Hülkenberg now.
Yeah.
They've got to pit Vettel soon, surely. Get him track position. But Lewis is sort of saying, look, 54 laps on this tyres. Not sure.
I don't really feel that great, he says. Perez, think of something. Why did you box me so late? Very difficult to pass, but he might have another go at him again. He was trying that on Valtteri Bottas, wasn't he? Into turn 4, you think is the main overtaking point there, but if you get a good little bit of traction, is it possible just to squeeze it on the inside at 5?
He's trying to distract the driver in front. It's sort of a half-faint, half-hearted thing that tends to puncture somebody's tyre and rip somebody else's front wing off. But he's just trying to distract him.
Onwards towards the stadium section they go, and every time Sergio Perez enters that stadium section, the fans start to get very excited indeed. Right on cue, she's supporting Ferrari.
8.8 million people in Mexico City, and they all like to go on the road at the same time, don't they? Like a call to arms.
The thing is, where does Mexico City end, and where does the conurbation of Mexico City start? Because it's just one big sprawling mass of about 22 million people.
We have fun now.
We love it here. Last night was magnificent with the Day of the Dead celebrations as well. Right, here goes Sergio Perez, very much alive and kicking in this race. I'm trying to get 9th place off Felipe Massa, and he's been trying to get 9th place off Felipe Massa for a while, and he was trying to get past the Williams of Valtteri Bottas for quite a while before that, and he's still stuck behind him. And there's a bit of DRS for him. Down towards turn 4 he goes.
And box, Sebastian, box.
And he's coming in, our race leader, Sebastian Vettel, and I can tell you, just looking to see Sergio Perez, he's still behind Felipe Massa.
He's going to come out behind his teammate.
Hang on, he's staying out. So Ferrari were ready for him, but he's decided, has Sebastian, that I fancy another lap.
Oh, don't let the temperature out of those tyres. They've been cooking all morning.
They were ready for him, they wanted him to come in, and he didn't.
Mary Berry was scolding them. Taking him out of the oven way too early. Not that I've ever seen that show, but she seems very famous.
She's lovely. Perez still hustling, still harassing Felipe Massa, giving it everything he can. Now, is he going to be close enough out of the Pelotada now? Has he got the pace down the main straight to get past Felipe Massa? The trouble is that Williams is a nice car in a straight line.
This is close.
It's closer, certainly. Is he going to have a go this time? Which way is he going to go? Left or right? Left or right? Down the inside goes Sergio Perez. He's just a bit too far behind once again. So he's got to take this fight on through corners 2 and 3. And hopefully get a decent, for him, exit out of turn 3 and see the moment into turn 4. And once again, not quite enough straight there to get the job done.
Phil Massa might be heading towards his bus pass in Formula 1 terms at the end of the season, but he's still got some fight in him, hasn't he? Good for him. Well, how much we're going to miss him in Formula 1. What a lovely bloke.
35 years of age. Felipe Massa, and heading towards his final race in Abu Dhabi at the end of this season. Sebastian Vettel still out on the track.
He obviously then just wants to go further, because he'll drop in behind Raikkonen and ahead of Hülkenberg anyway. He wants to buy himself some fresher tyres for the end of the race, so that's what Vettel's doing now. He's got nothing to lose, really, as long as he maintains that gap of 26 seconds, make it 27.0 to Nico Hülkenberg, who's currently in 7th. So Vettel will come back out in 6th, but with some handy tyres, because Raikkonen pitted on lap 26, 5 laps ago.
You saw the gap there between Rosberg and Verstappen, 2.5 seconds, give or take a tenth. Perez looks a little bit further behind Massa on this particular occasion. Whilst he will be gaining, enough to have a go into turn 1. So where are the closer battles? Jenson Button behind Fernando Alonso, within a second, and getting some DRS assistance there. 30 laps those soft tyres have done.
It's like an aircraft wing, isn't it? It has to have a little bit of give, otherwise it would break.
We saw Carlos Sainz's wing shear off, snap in half in practice on Friday morning.
All the stress analysis engineers watching from behind a pillow at home, needless to say, on Sky F1.
Is Vettel staying out so that they can kind of start cooking those tyres a little bit more and get them back up to temperature again?
There might be a bit of that, Crofty, but I do think it's to give him some tyres that if somebody starts to fall off the cliff towards the end because their tyres are just too old, he can come in with some fresh boots and punish them.
Just looking at, see, Nico Rosberg has had a lap of a 1:24.2. So we look at the Ferrari pit crew.
Box now, box now.
Yeah, they're waiting for him. Let's see if he comes in this time around. Verstappen just put in a 1:23.6. That gap's now 2 seconds between Rosberg and Verstappen. So he's closed up by 6/10 on the previous lap. And Rosberg is now heading up towards Esteban Ocon in the Manor. So might find himself being held up just a little bit more than he would really want to be. Verstappen could start to put him under pressure once again. Ricciardo waiting in the wings just behind his teammate, around about 3 seconds adrift.
Palmer started last with that chassis problem yesterday, up to 13th.
Made an early stop, didn't he, behind the safety car, Jolyon Palmer, to get rid of the super soft tyres and to go on to the mediums that he's running at the moment. Sebastian Vettel is now coming in for his pit stop, which means Lewis Hamilton takes over the lead of this race, and his teammate Nico Rosberg moves up into second, and he's managed to get past Esteban Ocon, and so has Max Verstappen as well. Vettel is out from his pit stop, 2.6 seconds. Medium compound tyres going on, no real surprises there. Now, is he going to get out ahead of his teammate Kimi Raikkonen? Could be quite close, this one.
The grip on this tire is just very poor.
Good enough, though, to keep you ahead of your teammate, Kimi. There he is, in towards turn 1. Raikkonen ahead of Vettel, 5th and 6th, the two Ferraris at the moment. But what they have both managed to do is jump Nico Hülkenberg in the pit stops.
I think Hülkenberg expected that. I think he didn't really. He outperformed Ferrari in qualifying with a sensational lap. But if he stays ahead of both Williams, Hülkenberg will have done his job this afternoon. He hasn't got enough speed, I don't think. I think he's got quite what it takes to beat the mighty works Ferrari team.
Now, I was watching this, Martin. Whilst we were looking at Sebastian Vettel, I was watching Rosberg getting past Ocon to lap him, and then Verstappen. Rosberg clearly was not in a part of the track that he wanted to be stuck behind the Manor. There wasn't really much room for Ocon to move out of the way at the time. Verstappen managed to get it done with some DRS as well along the main straight, and that gap really come down now to around about 1.3 seconds. You can see as they go through the stadium sector there just how close Verstappen is behind Rosberg. Now we've seen them come together once already in this race. A bit of a tap going into turn 1 right at the start. What's the betting that maybe not on this lap, but in a few laps' time, we might just see something similar.
We talked about this, didn't we? As to, in a straight fight, Rosberg had very much got the upper hand in the World Championship, providing both cars were reliable. Only Red Bull and Ferrari could come in and spoil it. And there he is.
If you're Lewis Hamilton, just suppose, you remember China a few years ago where Nico Rosberg was saying he's backing me into the Ferraris, he's backing me into the Ferraris. Knowing that you need a bit of help from Red Bull to try and stop your teammate coming second, do you kind of look at this situation now and think, right, if I start to go a little bit slower, I can maybe help Max Verstappen out a bit.
Verstappen is only 6 seconds off the lead and lapping faster than both Mercedes, who I think are eking out their tyre allocation, whereas the ever-eager teenager is just going for it, basically, which is why we love having him in Formula One. But we heard Lewis saying, I don't really like these tyres. What made me look down at that was when we saw all three of them in one shot back there, Crofty. It's like, because when they made their pit stops, Lewis had a 5.8 second lead. Now it's down to 4.8 seconds.
4.5 seconds as he crosses the line. I'll just float it out there. It's a legitimate tactic, nothing wrong with it at all. Lewis Hamilton will see where his teammate is, and he'll see maybe that Verstappen is right behind him as well. And do you start to go that little bit slower, preserve your own tyre life, and as a result start to back your teammate into the man advancing behind him? And who's to say that if Verstappen can't get past Rosberg as well, that Red Bull won't switch him and Ricciardo around towards the end of the race, because Ricciardo very much played the after you, sir, to help his teammate out. It's an intriguing strategic battle, this, Ted.
It is, Crofty. Now, on a completely different topic, attention McLaren fans. I have some news about your drivers' races, and it's not particularly good, I'm afraid. They're stuck. Alonso is stuck in 15th, and Jensen is stuck in 16th. And the problem is that ahead of them, Carlos Sainz is doing exactly more or less the same lap times, and he's on the same tyre, and he only stopped 1 lap difference. So there's not really a change differential in tyre life either. I think they feel at McLaren that they could be quicker than Palmer's Renault, who is in front of Sainz, if they could only get past the Toro Rosso. So a little bit frustrating in the McLaren garage at the moment.
Thanks, Ted. Hamilton leads then from Rosberg, from Verstappen, from Ricciardo, Raikkonen and Vettel. And the gap between Hamilton and Rosberg was 4.5 seconds. It's now 4.2 seconds. Rosberg's just actually put his fastest lap of the race in.
Sauber.
Just make sure you keep it clean behind Rosberg for the moment, Max. Never know what might happen later. Doing a really good job at the moment.
Behind those tyres. So we've got a Sauber in 12th and 13th, and Ericsson's was refusing to move over for NASA. In fact, it was NASA refusing to move over, but he has now. Ericsson is through. But of course, very close to the points there, aren't they?
Yes, once again. Sergio Perez currently running in 10th place, half a second behind Felipe Massa. And we'll just have a little look at this battle down the main straight again, because half a second is that close enough for Perez to have a go on Felipe Massa. He kind of backed off and has got a bit closer on this particular lap. In towards turn 1 we go. And a lock up there from Felipe Massa. Now that might just give Sergio Perez a real advantage coming out of turn 2 and turn 3 towards the next heavy braking zone. Did he actually lose out that advantage by getting a bit too close into the second corner? And it looks like he's too far behind Massa on this occasion to try and get past him. But real frustrations, you can sense it, can't you, from watching on our screens. Sergio Perez struggling to get past Felipe Massa. Meanwhile, looking at the battle out in front between Hamilton, Rosberg and Verstappen. Let's go to Sky Race Control. Paul Di Resta, good afternoon.
Hi, Crofty. Yeah, one thing Mercedes they've not had to deal with too much is running traffic, and Rosberg definitely won't want to get too close to Hamilton. I was looking at the Mercedes in the garage before it went out, and the brake ducts are just not that big, so if he gets close, Verstappen putting him under pressure, I'm sure Red Bull may have a bit more margin there just to be able to close up and push towards the end of this race.
Interesting. Brake cooling, obviously, Martin, something that all the teams worry about here, because 22% less oxygen in the air.
Yeah, especially if you're following another car forever, like Perez is there. I think Massa might need one of those wrestling helmets for disguise when he leaves here this evening.
So Luchadore would be Felipe Massa. What would he be? The Brazilian Flash. Now, when he locked up on the previous lap, did that kind of take Sergio Perez by surprise a little bit? And then he kind of had to back off quite dramatically, and then lost any momentum, didn't
he? He did. I think sometimes they overheat their tyres, other times they're repairing their battery charge and using it partly for defence, partly for attack. There's an awful lot going on inside the cockpit that we can't see, unfortunately. You must have a graphic up there, actually, but they've got some tools available to them, but the best one is still their right foot on the throttle.
And that right foot is getting...
It has clouded over a little bit. The tyres are looking good at the moment, but obviously we don't want them to get too cool. Best way to do that is to keep up the pace. You're doing a good job.
That's right foot as the Haas is lapped going into turn 1. Of Max Verstappen is actually getting him ever closer to Nico Rosberg. If he keeps going on like this, Martin, he will be within DRS range of the Mercedes very, very shortly.
10 seconds covers the top 4, and Ricciardo, can he do 70 laps on a set of tyres?
Well, if the track temperature gets cooler, if the clouds come over, does that help?
No, I think that was the message. I think it was the message of, look, this is not out of the question. Rosberg's just done our fastest first sector.
He's got the hurry up there, isn't he, from the team, you think?
Yeah. I think Louis out front is just pacing himself, isn't he?
So far, all so good. We're on lap 38 for Lewis Hamilton. Leads this race from his teammate. What I'm sure he'd love would be for Max Verstappen to get in between the two Mercedes. But Rosberg on this lap is just stretching the advantage somewhat. It was 1.1 second when they last crossed the line, 1.5 seconds at the moment. Still Sergio Perez.
Checo, how are the tyres? How are the tyres?
They are good. They are good. I don't know why you stopped me so late.
He's not going to let that one go in a hurry.
He's not. He feels that he has lost out by the team making a late call. He was stopping, wasn't he, behind both Williams. But then again, towards the end of the race, will he have the fresher tyres to take advantage?
Alonso and Button, two great world champions, fighting like crazy over 15th and 16th.
6 laps difference, just to change the subject, Martin, between when Massa stopped and when Perez stopped. So the latter stages of this race, assuming we don't get a safety car, come back to Sergio Perez again. But does he feel he's actually losing an awful lot of time stuck behind Felipe Massa that he could have been trying to get after Valtteri Bottas? Ted, down to you.
Just a quick one while we watch this fight. Further thought on Red Bull's strategy. They do have, Crofty, I believe, each a brand new set of soft tyres, don't they, Red Bull, going into this race?
Going into this race, Ricciardo and Verstappen had new softs, yes.
Each do,
yes,
which Rosberg doesn't. He's got a,
but he used them in qualifying, didn't he?
Exactly. So that might push Red Bull into thinking they might do an extra stop and put the soft tyre on at the end.
Hamilton, the previous lap was a bit scruffy. I think it was traffic passing Gutierrez. And Verstappen now just 1.2 behind the second Mercedes of Rosberg.
Niki Lauda in person and his old racing overalls. Oh, well, it might be his old racing overalls. Not quite sure how tall Niki was when he was racing, to be fair. 55 podiums in Formula One for Niki Lauda. Nico Rosberg stays in the top 3 and he equals those podium record of his boss.
This track temp is now dropping, so it looks like pace is coming up for everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely clouded over somewhat. The track temperature has gone down to 44 degrees and we've just reached 2 o'clock in the afternoon here in Mexico City, and it's Hamilton, Rosberg, Verstappen leading. Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Vettel, Hülkenberg and Bottas the top 8, and then Felipe Massa and Sergio Perez, and Perez is going to go for it this time. Down the inside, Sergio Perez just stays ahead. Felipe Massa didn't lock up his brakes. Vital that he didn't do it on that occasion because Perez was waiting to pounce. Can he get now some good traction coming out of turn 3? On towards turn 4 we go now. DRS once again for Perez. The entire stadium section waiting to see Perez ahead of Massa. They're going to have to wait a bit longer.
You can see tears, this ending in tears. Good fight, but it is for 9th and 10th as the tail end of the points.
So what do you get? Hülkenberg's got 6 points for 7th place at the moment. Perez adds to that tally to make it 7. Bottas and Massa scoring 6 points for Williams. So at the moment, Force India have an extra point advantage.
Yeah, and of course that will swap around, wouldn't it, if he gets through?
Yeah. But I think Force India would, if they can leave here, beating their nearest championship rivals by a point, they'll consider that a very good Mexican Grand Prix. This was a race Williams were hoping to, if not erode that lead and overtake them, but at least score more than Force India. And that battle for fourth, vital for both teams in terms of prize money and the extra millions that they get, millions of dollars that they get for finishing fourth in the championship, where of course Force India have never finished in their history before. Trying again, Perez, but he looks a little bit further back this time around, but under braking very late there from Sergio Perez.
He's got a better car on the brakes, hasn't he? Just can't get quite close enough.
Whether Massa was just a bit tentative there or not, I don't know, but Perez seemed a lot further behind and then gained quite dramatically. There's Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso. You pointed out that particular scrap. Button still behind his teammate with Danny Kvyat. Starting to get interested on that, and the leader will be coming up to lap them soon. He's already lapped Kevin Magnussen, you can see there in the Renault. Magnussen running down in 18th, his teammate Jolyon Palmer currently running 13th after pitting behind the safety car, getting rid of his super soft tyres, and trying to run on the mediums right to the end of the race.
Despite the stock car racing on the first lap, we've still got 21 runners out of 22.
Yeah, only Pascal Wehrlein out of this race, and after he was the unfortunate victim of Esteban Gutierrez getting stuck in the middle of Ericsson and Wehrlein. Ericsson had to pit for a new front wing as a result of it as well.
Yeah, they've got a lot of traffic coming up. The leaders generally, a lot of traffic. They're all grouped around one side of the circuit.
Is that helping Verstappen get closer to Nico Rosberg? What's happened here with Sergio Perez?
I think go wide there. I think he got away with that.
Adding some tyre smoke to the barbecue smoke.
Yes, it's quite distracting down there, wasn't it?
It looks like someone's just gone straight on and locked up, but it's not. It's one of the food outlets. Not that I'm an expert.
On what? Food?
Yeah, food outlets in general. So, there is the scrap between Alonso, Button and Kvyat for 15th. Here comes Hamilton. Blue flag's been waved for Kevin Magnussen. Nico Rosberg will get past Magnussen here. That's key for Nico Rosberg. Verstappen has now got to clear Magnussen, or he starts to lose a bit of time, and he had got within a second of Nico Rosberg on the previous lap. And what he needs to do here, Martin, you'd imagine that he'd get past Magnussen before the next braking zone. That could be tricky.
It could. Magnussen, yeah, yielded on the throttle. That's the best way to do it. Stay on the clean side of the track and yield and let them go through. You lose less time.
Rosberg, with some DRS assistance, has just set the fastest first sector of this race, half a second quicker than Max Verstappen managed. So that's going to help him stay ahead.
Still the two Williams fastest in that speed trap, 372 kilometres per hour.
231 miles an hour. Really impressive. So Rosberg and Hamilton and Rosberg very shortly are going to come up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars, all fighting it out for their own position. But all are going to be seeing the blue flags, if not in 1 lap or in 2 laps' time.
And Rosberg put the hammer down as well. A new fastest lap, a 1:32.7. Now just 3.8 seconds behind his championship rival, Lewis Hamilton.
Let's head down to you.
So just an indication of how long that these medium white striped tyres are lasting is to look at Felipe Nasr. Still hasn't stopped after 44 laps. He is going to have to, of course, but we'll see what happens then with Sauber, because he's currently just to 1 place off a point scoring position, which is so crucial between their fight, Sauber's fight. Still haven't got any points, of course, with Manor Mercedes. But Nasr will pit, and then Ericsson doing a great job as well. Ericsson has already, of course, done his mandatory tyre stop when he changed his front wing. So Ericsson in 11th. Looks like he might get a point. Ericsson doesn't have to stop again.
Yeah, well, this is why then they were very keen on Ericsson getting past Felipe Nasr, because the Brazilian has got to stop again. Sauber never finished last in the championship, a team that came into Formula One in 1993, and they're currently last, but they're 1 place off a points finish. And just 1 point will take them above Manor on countback. They've had more 12th places during the course of this season. So
that's $30 to $35 million, and back, possibly even more for Sauber, because they came off into the system from a P7 in the championship, and they're fundamental numbers for those two teams.
Lewis, we're coming up on a lot of traffic. Got Kvyat 4 seconds ahead. He's in a group of 8 cars. 8.
Just advising Lewis Hamilton what lies ahead of him. Meanwhile, down at Ferrari, Sebastian Vettel is now only a second, 1.1 second, behind Kimi Räikkönen. He's starting to get to near DRS range. Tyres stood by at Mercedes. But will they be needed?
Vettel's just about in DRS range of his teammate as well, 5th and 6th for Ferrari. What are they going to do with that one? He's on much younger tyres, Vettel, as we know.
So there is that traffic then for Lewis Hamilton. You can see the blue flags, or the blue screens being flashed for Danny Kvyat. That's the first one that he's received.
The trouble with being first on the road like that is you do alert and wake up the back markers first, and then they're a little bit more attentive. Thereafter, they're obviously getting lots of information on the radio. Well, they should be on the radio. Rosberg's just done a half second quicker middle sector. He's trying to put some pressure on Hamilton out front. Gap down to 3.7 seconds now.
Yeah, well, we've been talking, haven't we, for this, around about the last 30 laps.
Box this lap, Kimi, box this lap.
As Ferrari look to pit Kimi Räikkönen. We've been talking about Verstappen and Rosberg, but can Rosberg get a win out of this one? Is that still possible for him as the medium tyres go on to Kimi Räikkönen's Ferrari? He was maybe a bit hesitant there, wasn't he, getting away when the light went green. He's going to come back out onto the track behind Nico Hülkenberg. He should be ahead of Valtteri Bottas, so will be in 7th place, Kimi Räikkönen.
Yes, he lost 2 places there. I was a little bit surprised at that call, but it covers off anybody's tyres fading later on, doesn't it? It's an interesting call.
Obviously, negates the necessity for Sebastian Vettel to get past his teammate.
Absolutely. It eases him past nicely, doesn't it?
Were his times that bad? Were his tyres that bad? Do you think that they needed that stop?
He was catching him 10ths per lap. Verstappen's now fastest man in the middle sector, applying the pressure.
So Hamilton's got past Kvyat. Now he's got Jenson Button just ahead of him. Nico Rosberg still behind the Russian. And we're on board with Lewis Hamilton now. The gap between Hamilton and Rosberg, 3.4 seconds. The gap between Rosberg and Verstappen, who's just done his personal best lap of the race, 1.4 seconds.
And you can use overtake to get past these back markers. Just be careful, they are racing.
In other words, a bit of extra boost. Button on the steering wheel. I think we might have a little paddle. Some of them have a little paddle as well behind the steering wheel, some of them.
Let's just see Kimi Räikkönen's pit stop again there. Kangaroo juice.
Steady away, wasn't it? But this, all 4 wheels are fully bolted on.
Yeah, this week. Retiring with that loose wheel in Austin last week. Sebastian Vettel, by the way, now Kimi Räikkönen has come in for his pit stop and he's got no traffic ahead of him. Has just put in the fastest first sector of this race. He might have been using DRS to get past Kevin Magnussen. But he's been about 5 seconds behind Daniel Ricciardo. See how that transpires. We're on lap 47 of this 71-lap race. Looks like Felipe Nasser is going to come in for his pit stop. Oh, they've been expecting him for a while. Ted, down to you.
Hallelujah, so have I. What is kangaroo juice as regards Kimi's stop, Crofty?
Well, it's just petrol that makes your car jump.
Oh, so it's very quick, something very quick.
Well, no, it just makes you go a bit jumpy.
Okay. Along, Ted. You're too young, aren't you, to remember that?
I am, yeah. Well, if that's something nice and quick and jumpy and good, then maybe elephant syrup for Fernando Alonso, I'm afraid, because he had quite a slow pit stop just now. There was a problem on the left rear. So Alonso doing a 2-stop, put the medium tyre on again. So I'm surprised to see nobody bringing out the soft tyres. Anyway, because the medium is the best to get to the end. And yeah, just lost 3 or 4 seconds on Alonso's stop.
He might be better on those jumbo tyres next year then.
the beeping machine ready then, because he wasn't happy earlier on, was he?
Raikkonen's now set another fastest lap of the race, 6.5 seconds behind Hulkenberg.
Are you sure they're not trying to go to the end?
To Ricciardo, he's trying to go to the end, so keep trying.
Well, if Ricciardo is, then surely all of those that pitted way before him are too.
Here's that pit stop Ted was talking about. You'd think that Ricciardo was going to the end.
Left rear, slow, right front a little slow. It's almost like there's a bit of confusion there as to what was going on. We've got their double pitting the McLarens as well, because the mechanic there telling the camera crew to get out of the way.
We'll hear all about that, I'm sure, in a moment on the team radio. Verstappen's a second behind Nico Rosberg. Rosberg's lost time to his teammate, 4.2 seconds the gap now.
Guys, the front brake doesn't brake anymore. What's going on?
Romain Grosjean currently running in 20th place, and only Esteban Ocon behind him in the manor. Still Sergio Perez stuck behind Felipe Massa. Danny Kvyat has been in for a pit stop as Lewis Hamilton, as Nico Rosberg, I should say, laps Jenson Button, and now Verstappen right behind the McLaren as well. Button keeps out of the way. Now, Martin, that looked to me like that helped Max Verstappen.
I don't know, it looked a bit even Stevens to me, but it's as they make their way through the pack, he's got himself within, you're right, gained a 10th. Looking at the top left there, well spotted, Crofty.
It's just important because it puts him in DRS, doesn't it? Kvyat, by the way, has gone onto the super soft tyre, so I wonder if we'll see the Toro Rosso setting the fastest lap of the race, given the difference in pace between the medium compound and the super soft. But let's look now at Rosberg and Verstappen.
Okay, left rear feels like it's taking a hit.
Ricciardo's tyres are struggling somewhat. He pitted behind the safety car. Verstappen came in an awful lot later. He's got 12 laps, fresher tyres. He's got Nico Rosberg in his sights, and he's got pace down the main straight with DRS as well. And he's gaining, as you can see, on Nico Rosberg. Blue flags being waved for the back markers in front. Rosberg locks up, though, and has to go a little wide there. And that's going to give Verstappen a real incentive to come out of turn 3 and down towards the next corner. Great acceleration from the Mercedes. Can Verstappen hang on here and be in a position to challenge as they come to the next left-hander? Verstappen goes down the inside, loses control, goes wide and off the track. He gave it a go, but he couldn't quite make it stick. He comes onto the track and Carlos Sainz gets held up, and Jenson Button says, thank you very much, I'll take a place there as well. Button moves up into 14th. Verstappen tried to move up into 2nd, but it didn't quite go for him.
Good effort. He knows where the grip level is now. He had to take that chance. He knew he'd got a little bit of space there to recover it. I enjoyed that.
So did I.
So Vettel...
Okay, just regroup, Max. It's all good, mate. All good. Hard luck. Nice try.
Why they've got to regroup is I think Vettel will be coming at both Red Bulls later on and still fancies 3rd on the podium. Mind you, we don't know who's going to be 2nd yet.
Do we know who's going to be 1st?
No.
Well, it's looking good for Lewis Hamilton. Riding on board now with Romain Grosjean. Didn't like his front wing. Oh, blimey. Probably didn't like the sight of Danny Kvyat steaming round the outside.
On his super softs. Yeah. That's not normally an overtaking place.
Not quite sure it was an overtaking place there. They both ran wide. Oh, Ricciardo's come in for a pit stop. Soft tyres going on to the Red Bull. Felipe Nasser's had his pit stop. Gutierrez has come into the pits as well. So Ricciardo has pitted. He's going to come out behind Kimi Raikkonen. As Fernando Alonso on Kevin Magnussen, that's for position. Alonso moves into 15th place.
But behind Hulkenberg as well for Ricciardo.
So they've not been able to make the one-stop work after pitting so early. We can look once again from on board Verstappen at what happened.
Pretty dirty up the inside there. It's uncharted territory.
How hot has that made his front left medium tyre?
It's that was a bit bold, that one. It's unusual to see Max not make the corner when he does a lunge, but that was that was out there somewhere.
It was almost like the lunge at Hockenheim in reverse, where Nico Rosberg went down the inside, forced Verstappen. White got a penalty, of course, that day as well. Well, she was willing him on. didn't quite work for him. Ocon and Gutierrez. Ocon is 20th, Gutierrez is 21st. This is a battle for position. Esteban Gutierrez has made it past the banner. Kimi Raikkonen with the fastest lap of this race. Currently in 7th place. So Ricciardo ahead of him, but behind Hulkenberg, and Ricciardo's having a look at Hulkenberg down the main straight whilst we watch Esteban Gutierrez here. Daniel Ricciardo's going for it on Nico Hulkenberg. And whether he makes it or not, I'm not quite sure. As they go into turn 1, yes, there he is, there he does. And he's up into 6th, though soft compound tyres going on. And he did have Daniel Ricciardo a brand new set of the soft compound tyre. So he's up into 5th and now behind Sebastian Vettel. He's quite a long way behind Vettel, though, isn't he?
Yeah, what if he can make 20 seconds up on his teammate in that time? He'll be coming through now, Ricciardo. Didn't work out too badly for him, that extra stop. Now he can let the car go a little bit. 19 to go, 20 including this lap.
Let's just have a little look again. Esteban Ocon and Esteban Gutierrez. That's earlier on, we didn't quite see that. We got a bit of front wing damage, didn't we, there for Gutierrez, and the Red Bull running right over it.
I hit some debris with my floor.
I think he'll be all right.
Yeah,
not doing particularly high speed, but I think he'll be all right with that one.
He's lucky it didn't go onto his rear tyres. Here's Ricciardo on Hulkenberg.
Nice.
Qualified 5th, finished 5th this time last year, and he was 1.4 seconds quicker than Sebastian Vettel on the last lap. And he's got 17 seconds to go to try and get 5th place, to try and get 4th place, we should say.
Yeah, he might as well thrash the life out of those tyres now, Ricciardo, and see what it yields.
Right. His teammates now 2.5 seconds behind Nico Rosberg. And from Verstappen's point of view, the disappointment not only of not making that move stick, Martin, is that there isn't traffic to try and help him out and slow Rosberg down.
So once, Hamilton clears Ericsson, he's got the length of the pit straight before he hits any more traffic, but it's another gaggle again when he gets down there.
Guess what's happened to Sergio Perez in the last 30 laps? He's been looking at the rear wing of the Williams, of Felipe Massa, and he's still looking at the rear wing of the Williams of Felipe Massa, and I dare say he's getting fed up of the rear wing of the Williams of Felipe Massa, as the stewards are going to look at that Grosjean Fiat incident.
Don't really know why.
Well, the Fiat went very much off the track.
Yeah,
Grosjean went a bit off the track.
They've both locked their tyres up there, haven't they? Oh well, we'll see.
Whilst we look at Sergio Perez and feel his pain and frustration, we'll go down to 10.
I think it's pain and frustration for Kimi Raikkonen as well. Remember, he stopped for a second time. We thought he might sort of scare everybody into doing 2 stops ahead of him. Well, it hasn't happened that way, and now he's suffering again with his left rear tyre, reporting that it's just going off and not giving the grip. So there's something clearly slightly wrong with the setup with the Ferrari, and it hasn't worked out at all well for Kimi. I feel a bit sorry for him. He's trying to pressure Hulkenberg ahead, but not really making much inroads. He could get it by the end of the race.
You can't help but feel they pitted Kimi to get him out of the way of Vettel.
Yeah, but that's not the modern way of Ferrari, is it? Especially the season that Kimi's been having.
He's been having a very good season, you're right.
The kind of thing they did with Barrichello and Schumacher.
He's might only have 1 podium in the last 13 races, Kimi Raikkonen, but he's been scoring points. It's a lot Austin, of course, last week. You just saw, by the way, Romain Grosjean get past Esteban Ocon, who's been passed then by 2 the Haas Ferraris in the space of 3 or so laps. Ricciardo's on an absolute flyer, 15 seconds between himself and Sebastian Vettel. Max Verstappen starting to lose a little bit of touch to Nico Rosberg. The gap, by the way, between Vettel and Ricciardo now 14.5 seconds. Has he got time in 16 laps to try and get to his old teammate and try and get past him?
With Verstappen there, the surface of the tyre melts, Vettel, is why you got the tremendous grip. It's the rubber against the tarmac that gives you grip. It's why they don't need grooves. The grooves are only there for when it rains on your road tyres. But if you go through a dusty part of the track, the molten rubber does absorb some dust and rubbish, and it can take 2 or 3 laps to get them back up again.
Talking of things going back up again, the track temperature just briefly touched 49 degrees. It's now 48 degrees. It's getting a bit hotter out there. So does that not help Verstappen if the cooler temperatures were bringing those medium tyres of his a little more life?
So they're giving Kvyat a penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Just about finishes his day off, doesn't it?
He's 17th at the moment. To be fair, he is 14.7 seconds clear of Kevin Magnussen. It might not make too much difference. Might.
Jolyon Palmer still catching Ericsson for 11th. What a great race he's had.
He's only pitted the once, Jolyon Palmer, and that was behind
the first lap. Yeah,
behind the safety car.
What's wrong? Get out of the way. Easy.
Do you get the feeling what Sebastian Vettel needs to do, Martin, is to spend a weekend, say, at Manor, and show everybody just how to get out of the way for blue flags. Do a seat swap with Pascal Wehrlein.
I suppose he had it at Toro Rosso a little bit, although the Toro Rosso was pretty quick, wasn't it? When he was winning Monza in 2008 and such like. But yeah, I guess it just vents the frustration and off he goes.
Is he right? Are people not getting out of the way in time? You haven't seen too much of it.
Well, I don't think they're thinking it's Vettel, why don't I just hold him up a little bit longer, do you?
No, they're probably trying to run their own race, aren't they?
When you look in your mirror, you can see it's a Ferrari. It's very hard to tell which one, although you will have been told by your team, presumably.
And there is your race leader, Lewis Hamilton. The man right behind him is Marcus Ericsson, who has just been lapped. And there is the gap to the other silver arrow, now over 7 seconds between Hamilton and Rosberg.
So Mercedes will be looking slightly nervously at Ricciardo, because they do have to pit again if they can't get to the end of the race. Ricciardo's flying.
Yeah.
And he's now 29.7, 28.2 seconds off the lead. If that gets down to 22, and Mercedes think they might yet have to have another pit stop, that's a tough call for them. Ricciardo is making their life on the Mercedes pit wall just a little bit more difficult.
They can afford to lose a little bit of time. They've got a 10-second gap between Hamilton and Verstappen, with Rosberg in the middle of it. You're watching there Jolyon Palmer. He has Jenson Button right behind him. One British driver who's definitely leaving the grid for 2017, and one British driver who might be leaving the grid for 2017, but is still in the hunt for seats. Force India, possibly. Sauber, potentially. Manor, maybe. There's still seats available. I suppose the key at the moment is where's Kevin Magnussen going? And apparently there's an offer from Haas to go and join them, and maybe an offer from Renault as well. And where's Esteban Ocon going? And there is Jenson Button and Jolyon Palmer. Jenson just outbraking himself, and very, very nearly Jenson Button losing a bit of front wing there.
Yeah. We know that Jolyon's pretty handy with the overtakes. We saw him in his GP2 seasons, didn't we? Doing some corkers.
Former GP2 champion, of course. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, Verstappen making a little bit of time up on that lap, but I know what you mean. Red Bull are using this, let's use some sort of pincer movement, have 2 cars for Mercedes to worry about strategically rather than just one. And it does seem to be a nice position they're in, but I just looking down the pit lane towards Mercedes, I don't see that many discussions, actually. I don't see that many sort of furrowed brows. I think they've probably got the pace to defend it. But, of course, it would mean a position swap as well, wouldn't it? If Verstappen's going to stay on his strategy and not pit again, then Ricciardo would have to go back past him.
Yes. Nico Hülkenberg's doing a fine job here, Martin, keeping Kimi Räikkönen at bay on tyres that are 43 laps old.
He's due a good result, Hülkenberg. Heading off to Renault for 2+1 seasons.
Yeah, wants to drive for a works team, feels that the time is right to do that. Maybe not thinking about next year, but the year after that.
Yeah, well, he's going to hope that Renault really invest, and at 29 years old, he's probably hoping for a bit of cash in his skyrocket as well before he gets into his early 30s.
Yeah. And as you established, mid-30s is now pensionable age. Formula One driver, so he's driving for the pension. Oh, no, he's not. Verstappen's now 3 seconds behind Rosberg. 10.3 seconds cover the top three. Vettel and Ricciardo, the gap now down to 10.5 seconds. Ricciardo's giving it the charge.
Come on, Daniel, bring this race alive for us.
To be fair, it has absolutely flown by.
12, what have we got? 13 to go, including this one. Vettel still easing up to the back. I think Vettel, Verstappen and Rosberg are going to end up in a very similar place by the end, Crofty. I think you'll be getting excited.
Well, I'm going to be getting off my chair. In fact, I'll do it right now, in preparation. There's your race leader, though, Lewis Hamilton. First and foremost, Martin, he got the win in Austin last week. Came here looking nice and relaxed. He's looking okay for the win at the moment. So he's kind of, once again, doing what he's got to do. But the difficulty that he's got is that his teammate is second, and he kind of needs Rosberg to finish a little lower down for Hamilton to be champion again in 2016, and he can't influence that, of course.
And all the Hamilton fans around the world listening to us are saying, shut up, don't tempt fate.
I'm not going to tempt fate. I'll come up with a useless stat instead. If he does win this, it'll be the 23rd different circuit of Lewis Hamilton's career that he has won on. That will tie Michael Schumacher's all-time record. Schumacher's first ever podium was actually here in Mexico in 1992, his only start here. So I won't try and give you commentator's curse, I'll give you a useless stat instead.
Schumacher was my teammate here. It was a mighty track with a manual gear shift car.
And a proper pelotado in those days as well.
Yeah, one of those. Okay, here it comes again. I'm sure I went round that a very short amount of time ago.
Great to see Formula One back in Mexico again. Real passion for the sport. I was talking to the promoters. They were saying that a lot of the fans here, they buy their tickets almost like on a direct debit basis, so they're saving up month after month after month to get their tickets, and therefore looking forward to the race throughout the year as well, which is one of the reasons why it's such a big celebration when we get to race weekend. And there's the podium waiting for the top three, and one of the best podiums of the season, celebrating victory, second or third, in front of 20,000, 30,000 fans in that stadium sector. Right, Raikkonen, I should say, has gained on Hülkenberg just a little bit. Close that gap down. Sebastian Vettel gets DRS assistance to lap Marcus Ericsson.
Another 1.1 seconds for Ricciardo. He's been through some traffic. It looked like he'd stalled out a bit, but Ricciardo coming at the Ferrari.
And here goes Button and Palmer, part two, ladies and gentlemen, and it looks like Jenson Button with DRS can get this job done an awful lot more easily than he did a few laps ago. No lock-up from Jenson Button, no going wide into turn one. That is for position. Button goes up into 12th. Jolyon Palmer, just to repeat, has had those tyres on since the first lap, the end of the first lap, pitted behind the safety car that came out when Pascal Wehrlein had his collision with Marcus Ericsson, triggered by Esteban Gutierrez. The steward said no further action needed. A first corner on the first lap that saw Hamilton run wide and lock up his brakes, saw Rosberg and Verstappen come together and touch it once again. No action needed by the steward. Saw Carlos Sainz down towards out of turn three, clash with Fernando Alonso. Sainz at the moment is ahead of Alonso. He will take a 5-second penalty, though, which will promote Alonso up into 14th place by the end of this race. Kimi Raikkonen, contrary to an awful lot of others' strategy today, on a two-stop strategy, still gaining on Nico Hülkenberg in this battle for 6th place.
Good move by Jenson up into 12th in a car that we heard earlier shouldn't be in the race, indeed.
Still is, though.
It is still. They're both in the race.
Yeah, giving him everything. Cars disappear out of sight once more. Raikkonen on fresher tyres than Nico Hülkenberg. 45 laps those tyres have been on for now. There goes the DRS. Now, has he got the pace down that straight? Can Hülkenberg try and fend him off somewhat? Looking in his mirrors, Hülkenberg, as to where Raikkonen is, and he's right behind you, but he's not making the move. He's playing a more patient a waiting game is the fin.
Kimi would be more incisive, and wouldn't he, on that sort of thing, and he wouldn't send one up the inside and just, like young Max would, just seize what happens. I guess he's had too many contacts over the years to pull that one, but good fight there, and Vettel still coming at Verstappen at the thick end of a second lap.
And Ricciardo still coming at Vettel at the thick end of a second lap as well. He's got a little bit more distance to make up, but he's got the time.
Okay, gap now 3.5. Vettel last lap.
Yeah, I see him coming.
Okay, mate.
GP, his race engineer, giving him the times, and Verstappen's obviously looking in his mirrors, and he can see the red of Ferrari right there, and that's how Sebastian Vettel has made up an awful lot of time in the last 4 laps. By the way, the gap now 7.5 seconds between Vettel and Ricciardo. 8 laps to go. Ricciardo's just taken a second out of Sebastian Vettel, so you'd imagine Verstappen would quite like Ricciardo to hurry up on the scene here and start to get involved with this one. It might help him out just a little bit.
Well, Vettel's tyres are 20 laps younger. Remember, he just ran and ran and ran, so he'd get his payback later on. It's like waiting till Boxing Day to open your Christmas presents, but they're coming his way.
Certainly are, out in front. Another win for Lewis Hamilton, possibly coming his way. A win that would tie him with Alain Prost for second on the all-time list, a 51st in Formula One. Lennox Lewis, a man who knows a thing or two about heavyweight punches, watching on from the posh seats. 8.2 seconds, the gap out in front between Hamilton and Rosberg. We really want to focus on the gap now between Verstappen and Vettel. It's 2.5 seconds. Here comes Vettel. Behind him, 6.9 seconds back to Ricciardo. Here comes Ricciardo. The concertina effect.
He's got another McLaren for company now. McLaren doesn't want to put his power down coming out of the final turn by the looks of it.
Palmer kind of just hanging on in there. A race strategy. It's seen him run very, very long indeed, but he's now starting to feel the pain. Sebastian Vettel feels the gain towards the latter stages of this race. Palmer, in contrast, feeling all the pain. 61 laps those medium tyres have done. Alonso, as you can see on these soft tyres, that have done 17.
Yeah, it must feel like searching for the soap in the bath at the moment for Jolyon Palmer, trying to find anything you can get hold of in terms of grip.
Alonso coming at him all the while. We're watching the timing screens for you as well. Sebastian Vettel, Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo in what could be an absolutely thrilling battle for the final podium place here. Boy, would Sebastian Vettel like to get past Max Verstappen and end that consecutive 4th place finishes. It's now 1.7 seconds the gap between the Dutchman and the German. The Australian is 6.1 seconds behind. Needs just a little bit more pace. And he's going to run out of time. Well, Daniel Ricciardo, he's cleared Marcus Ericsson. There's no traffic between him and Vettel. Verstappen is coming up on Esteban Ocon in a while as well. Here comes Fernando Alonso though on Jolyon Palmer. Is he a little bit closer this time around as Alonso tries to take 13th place? Scrapping for 13th place, Palmer and Alonso. Brake dust comes off the front left, doesn't it, of the McLaren as Alonso stamps on the brakes and into turn 1. Palmer staying ahead, watching all the while, trying to place his car exactly where he needs it to be. Now, is the attack coming from Fernando Alonso this time around? Forces Palmer just to go a little bit earlier towards the right-hand side. He manages to stay ahead. 13th still for the young British driver.
Palmer's tyres 64 laps old. Alonso's tyres are 19 laps old.
And while we watch this, Esteban Ocon now just ahead of Max Verstappen and just ahead of Sebastian Vettel as Niki Lauda and Toto Wolff watch on. In a moment, it's another Mercedes 1-2. Who's going to fill the remaining podium place? It's still all up for grabs. There is Esteban Ocon. Verstappen has managed to get behind him, and now Sebastian Vettel is going to be screaming blue flag on his radio and trying to will Ocon out of the way as soon as he possibly can. And he does. Esteban Ocon get out of the way as soon as he possibly can. But Vettel lost time to Verstappen there in that first sector by about 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, Verstappen getting a nice slipstream down the pit straight. But this is where you need the grip through the final 2 sectors. Hülkenberg still somehow holding Raikkonen off for 6th. And Massa, Perez will know every nut and bolt on the back of a Williams, won't he?
Okay, so update, gap 6 seconds ahead to Vettel. Verstappen is 1.5 seconds ahead of Vettel. Let's keep pushing, mate. You will catch those 2 cars at this pace.
If he doesn't catch them and he hangs on to 5th place, Daniel Ricciardo, it means that only Sebastian Vettel can catch him for 3rd in the championship. If he does get ahead, then Ricciardo will be guaranteed 3rd place in the championship. And there is Alonso and Palmer. And what do you reckon to that then, Martin?
Looks right.
Yeah.
Did he shove him? I'll have to look at the other side. I had a good look round. The stewards very kindly wasn't shown the immense amount of of information they've got, which makes me somewhat nervous sometimes of calling it live in 2 seconds flat. But that's our job. And yeah, it was super impressive indeed what the stewards have got access to in seconds.
This helicopter shot in a minute is going to show Red Bull, Ferrari, Red Bull. There it is. Daniel Ricciardo, as we heard Simon Rennie explaining, is going to catch the 2 in front of him.
Hamilton's checked out.
He's nearly 10 seconds clear. Nearly 10 seconds clear of Nico Rosberg. Ted, down to you.
So, yeah, a little bit of radio traffic to Lewis Hamilton, remember him, leading the race. And they're telling him to go to strategy 3 on his...
there goes Kimi Raikkonen on Nico Hülkenberg. Raikkonen tries to go round the outside. Hülkenberg defending for all his might, and Hülkenberg's gone into a spin. And he's stranded in the middle of the track, and he's done very well to avoid contact with either Felipe Nasser or also Carlos Sainz. But Hülkenberg losing out big time there. Was there contact? What made Hülkenberg spin? Raikkonen moves his Ferrari up into 6th place. Hülkenberg the big loser in that battle.
Yeah, he had 14 seconds of Bottas behind him. He should be okay.
And that is Sebastian Vettel, and that is a big lock-up from Max Verstappen, and he goes wide, and Sebastian Vettel, as Verstappen goes onto the grass, might be able to come and take the remaining podium place here. Verstappen rejoins the track, still ahead of the Ferrari. Should he give that place back or not? He outbrakes himself. He's now looking to defend from Sebastian Vettel. This time, no lock-up on the brakes. Verstappen in 3rd place, Vettel in 4th. And Daniel Ricciardo right on the tail of both of them.
If I was a steward, I'd make him give that place to the Ferrari. He outbraked himself and just kept position.
Okay, give the position. I think you're going to have to give the position back, Max.
And he's getting advice from the Red Bull pit wall that you outbraked yourself, and as Martin Brundle said, you really should give that position back again. But where does he do that? He's got his teammate behind him, so Red Bull could be quite generous here. And
I think he's got 3 laps to do it. The best thing he can do for Red Bull right now, probably himself, is to hold the Ferrari up a bit and bring Ricciardo into play.
That might be what he's doing.
He has to let me go. He has to let me go.
Okay, copy, stay calm.
That's Arriva Bene, I think, saying exactly the same thing, the Ferrari team principal.
Yeah, that's maintaining. I mean, yes, he didn't gain a position, of course not, but he absolutely maintained a position by using the grass instead of the racetrack. But I think he must not cross the line. They haven't told him yet, but he must not cross the line more than 3 times. Depends where he is on the racetrack as to how many laps that is, of course, before serving a penalty which he hasn't been given yet.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, it might be, if he holds that Ferrari on a little bit more, and Vettel's trying down the inside, he might not be able to give that place back, because Ricciardo might just be able to nick the place off Sebastian Vettel anyway. And Arriva Bene gesticulated there, and Jock Clear with his head in his hands. Oh dear, what's going on? The battle for third, the remaining podium position. Does Verstappen have to give that place back? Nothing from the stewards to say that he has to yet.
For sake. That's what he is.
Now, we've seen Sebastian Vettel and heard Sebastian Vettel say a few things about Max Verstappen in this season so far. We might just be hearing a little bit more as well. The stewards are going to investigate this after the race, leaving the track and gaining an advantage. So nothing to say, has to get out of the way right now. Ricciardo almost into the wall.
Yeah, I thought he was going in the wall there. So if it's in the last 5 laps, they don't tend to dish out penalties thinking about it. I think he'll get a penalty. But of course, and now he's not got to give the place back. If Ricciardo gets past the Ferrari, Verstappen's got to let 2 cars through.
Yeah, or they give him a time penalty, and that might just work out nicely for Red Bull anyway. Look at that, 3rd, 4th, 5th, going through turns 2 and 3, almost in single file.
Am I the only one? Or are you not seeing what I'm seeing? He's just backing me off into Ricciardo.
And he's not just backing him off, Ricciardo's having a go down the inside, and somehow Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo don't come together. Ricciardo giving it absolutely everything in his bid to get past Sebastian Vettel here. Whilst Vettel complains on the radio, Ricciardo is trying to pick up the scraps, and Verstappen still in 3rd place. What a dramatic end this is to this Mexican Grand Prix.
Well, that was obviously what he was doing. He was backing him up. That's team play.
He's got a flat spot, I think, here on his front left, Martin. Oh, they did touch.
That was a big old move in the braking zone. They left him just enough space. I think he was so busy complaining on the radio, although they're not exactly synchronised. Brilliant driving from both of them, not for one to end up possibly upside down, frankly, in that one. Supreme skill. I can't tell you how hard it is to control cars like that and not smash them to bits into each other.
Meanwhile, out in front, the 2 Mercedes have started their final lap, and Mercedes will be the first constructor to win 17 races in a season. They'll beat their record from 2014 and 2015 in this 19th race of the season. Verstappen ahead of Vettel, ahead of Ricciardo, who seems to be suffering a bit from that flat stop spot and has dropped back.
He's got to stay within 5 seconds of Verstappen if he wants P4. Because I think he'll get a 5-second penalty.
To be investigated after the race. And a race that Lewis Hamilton is seemingly set to take back-to-back race victories at Austin, and then, of course, here in Mexico. Nico Rosberg on for another podium. The championship lead will come down, but it will still look, I'm sure, for Nico Rosberg very nice indeed as they head to Brazil in a couple of weeks' time. The Drivers' Points Championship, it will be 19 points difference between Rosberg and Hamilton, and after his win 7 days ago in Austin, Hamilton has come to Mexico City and he is winning the Mexico Grand Prix. The Championship Challenge is still on. Nico Rosberg will come home to make it a Mercedes 1-2, and the man in the lead in the championship still hanging on.
Charlie said,
yeah, you know what? Here's the message for Charlie. Off, honestly, off.
Sebastian Vettel finishes 4th for the 3rd consecutive race, and look how close he's then got to Max Verstappen, who finishes in 3rd, and he's got, I don't know if he's trying to say something or point a finger, wag a finger at Max Verstappen, but he's definitely making his frustrations and his annoyance known as Ricciardo comes home for 5th.
Max wasn't given a penalty, so he doesn't have to give the place back, but they're investigating.
Hang on.
Get in